We watch TV because we can find parts of ourselves. The more we connect with the characters, the more we are invested in the story. The development of the characters also has a huge role in how much we relate to them. Some shows purposely don't give any development to the characters. Some shows give an immense development to the characters and change them into a whole different person. But is it possible to give development to a character while keeping some traits stable and unchanged? Hello everyone, I'm Ece. Today I'm going to talk about Community's Jeff Winger and his character development over the course of the show. Community is about Jeff Winger, a suspended lawyer, being forced to enroll in Greendale Community College in order to get a real degree and be a lawyer again. The pilot starts with Jeff trying to find ways to sleep with the hot blondie from the Spanish class, Britta Perry. He meets Abed Nadir, who becomes one of the main characters, while asking whether he knows anything about her. With the information he has collected, he decides to lie to Britta about forming a Spanish study group and to invite her to study. Britta realizes he is lying and actually collects 6 people from the class and forms a real study group. This random group contains Abed, a TV enthusiast, Britta, a fake activist and a high school dropout, Pierce Hawthorne, a 60-something university student, Troy Barnes, a former football player who lost his sports scholarship, Annie Edison, a former Adderall addict who survived rehabilitation, Shirley Bennett, a divorced mother, and Jeff. The individuals of the group actually appear to be very incompatible, but Jeff is actually the person who pulls them together.
But what I can do is see what makes Annie awesome. She's driven. We need driven people. We need guys like Pierce. This guy has wisdom to offer. Shirley has earned our respect as a woman. Who cares if Troy thinks he's all that? Maybe he is. And Abed, you ask him to pass the salt, he gives you a bowl of soup. Because you know what? Abed is better. You've just stopped being a study group. I hereby pronounce you a community.
Throughout Season 1, Jeff tries to sell the group on many occasions, but his conscience starts to prevent him from doing so. In Introduction to Spanish, while trying to partner up with Britta, Jeff ends up being partnered with Pierce. He tries to ignore Pierce and bail on him, but he feels bad at the end and risks his own grade in order to do the presentation with him. As another example, in Introduction to Statistics, Jeff gets interested in Professor Slater and tries to get with her for the whole episode to the point where he ditches Annie's party. However, he feels bad at the end and ditches Slater in order to go to Annie's party. As the season progresses, Jeff also starts seeing Britta as not an object he wants to sleep with, but as a friend. In fact, in Pascal's Triangle Revisited, he doesn't take advantage of Britta when she blurts out "I love you" to Jeff in front of everyone.
Slater makes me feel like I do when I write my New Year's resolutions. She makes me feel like the guy I want to be. And Britta makes me feel like the guy I am 3 weeks after New Year's, back to who I really am. Do you try to evolve, or do you try to know what you are?
However, he manages the situation very poorly as he leaves both Britta and Slater and kisses Annie at the end of the episode, which proves that he cannot escape from his old and immature self. In short, even though there are cases in which Jeff remembers the presence of his conscience, the changes in his personality do not appear to be permanent.
You know, there's specialists you could talk to.
Yeah, maybe I should do that.
In Season 2, Jeff doesn't start off very well. In Anthropology 101, instead of dealing with the love triangle he created at the end of Season 1, Jeff gets into competition with Britta and completely brushes Annie off. This is actually a typical behavior that is expected from Jeff because it proves that development is a long process that needs time and cannot occur permanently in a short period of time. However, it becomes apparent that Jeff doesn't only care about making out with Annie or getting into Britta's pants.
I know you and Britta did it. Isn't the whole reason you got together with those people because you wanted to bang the blonde? Now I hear that you Frenched the brunette. What more could you have gotten out of that group?
As he feels guilty, he apologizes from both Britta and Annie in front of the whole class and makes up with them, which proves how much he values his friendships. Seeing a womanizer making a gesture like this proves how much he changed even in 1 year. However, it's still apparent that he experiences a dilemma between acknowledging his own personality and changing for the better. In Accounting for Lawyers, Jeff meets his old lawyer friend, who actually ratted out on him and caused him to lose his job, and starts to act like the old deceitful lawyer he was.
He stabbed you in the back, Jeff. He's a bad friend.
But he's a good lawyer. Caring is lethal around here. It's a disease. You guys have it. I don't. If you do care about me, don't infect me.
Even though he feels as if he missed his sneaky self so much, he realizes that he's not very comfortable with the situation and leaves. Jeff being tempted to act like his old self even though he progresses shows that he doesn't follow the likable leading man trope.
TV makes sense. It has structure, logic, rules, and likable leading men. In life we have this. We have you.
In Season 3, it's very apparent that he acts selflessly and is very helpful on many occasions. In Pillows and Blankets, Troy and Abed get into a huge fight about their friendship. At first, Jeff acts as if he doesn't care, but with Annie's attitude, he tries to make Troy and Abed realize how much their friendship means to both of them.
Word got around these two were now hurting each other's feelings. I thought about what Annie said, and then I thought about what I might do to make things right.
At this point, it can be said that Annie has become the living version of his conscience, and him going to Annie in certain situations proves that he actually wants to listen to his conscience more and do the right thing.
Why are you talking to me about it?
Because
Talking to me about it would make you feel like a bad friend. And you wanted to feel like a bad friend because you want to be a good friend?
you really suck, you know that?
Even though the way he cares about his friends is a very positive development, he still struggles with his personal life. In Urban Matrimony and Sandwich Arts, Shirley gets back with his ex-husband again and asks Jeff to deliver a toast at their wedding. However, as Jeff doesn't really believe in marriage, he has a hard time writing a speech. He asks Annie what he can write about, and Annie says that if he looks into his heart, he will find the right answer. However, he prefers getting drunk and almost getting married with Britta, who has no belief in marriage either.
My daddy said he would stay with my mommy forever, and he left. Marriage is a lie.
Thankfully, this attempt is prevented by Shirley and Annie. It's understandable that Jeff doesn't believe in marriage, as he hasn't seen a healthy one. However, him ignoring the fact that he saw Annie in his heart, getting drunk and going directly to Britta, proves that he is escaping from his real feelings and even attempting a doomed marriage that will make him unhappy. This unsuccessful attempt can be seen as a self-fulfilling prophecy. In short, Jeff still struggles to face some important personal issues even though he showed a lot of progress in his friendships. A little disclaimer. In Season 4, Dan Harmon, who is the producer of the show, was fired and the development of all the characters started to fall down. Because Jeff was actually the self-insert of Harmon, without his involvement in the writing of the characters he created, everything seemed pointless and the show went downhill. This was the only season Harmon was not involved in, which created irreparable damage and affected the following seasons.
I lost my job. I ruined my show. I betrayed the audience.
However, I will try to study the fall in Jeff's character development disregarding this fact and relating more to how people respond to change in real life.
Oh, don't blame it all on a gas leak year. This is a 4-year process.
With Season 4, it becomes more apparent that Jeff tries to face some of his unresolved issues coming from his past. In cooperative escapism and familial relations, Britta tries to encourage Jeff to meet his father as he has now found his phone number. Jeff warns Britta not to get involved in his personal life, but as the episode progresses, it becomes more apparent that he really wants to meet his father, yet is scared. He tries to escape when he comes to his father's door, but it turns out that Britta was already inside. He gets angry with Britta as he told her not to meddle with his life, but his instincts drive him back to his father's house. Once he faces him, he pours everything he has held in since he was a child, which causes him to relax.
Let me tell you how I turned out. I am not well adjusted. I'm just a grown man who can't even look his own friends in the eye for too long because I'm afraid that they'll see that I am broken. So you get credit for that.
It's impossible to completely resolve this kind of an issue, but facing his father and talking about his disappointments helps Jeff at least to make peace with his past. However, there are of course traces of his skepticism on many other occasions. For example, in advanced documentary filmmaking, Chang returns as a new person who has lost his memory, Kevin. Almost everyone in the study group believes that Kevin actually has the Changnesia, except Jeff, and for the whole episode, he tries to prove Chang is lying. At the end of the episode, Jeff finally gives up and decides that Chang trying to leave his past behind is actually a good idea, yet he still doesn't believe Kevin.
I'm not saying I believe him, but I have gotten an idea of what it feels like to be Chang. Wanting to leave that name behind is the sanest decision anyone can make.
In fact, Chang really is lying, but the fact that everyone believes Kevin but not Jeff proves that he never loses his suspicious and distrusting personality, which is understandable as his father has abandoned him in the past. It also supports his lack of commitment to any kind of relationship, and this trait of his is almost stable throughout the course of the show. He actually goes downhill relationship-wise compared to his development in Season 3.
When you feel the way I feel about you, the easy loophole through the creepiness and danger is to treat them like a child. It's a way for me to tell you how important you are from a distance.
Instead of making any progress, he acts like Annie's feelings towards him are unrequited.
Annie, do we have to have another talk about you wanting to play house with me?
This may be happening because he has a tendency to go back to his old self whenever he gets introduced to a new feeling, even though it may affect him positively. It's very much apparent that he falls back to his comfort zone while choosing romantic partners because that is what he is used to.
Then what's been going on with us all year?
Annie, I think you're reading into some things.
In short, Jeff tries to resolve some of his familial issues, but still has more issues that he has to work on.
I wish I had the courage to commit to a relationship.
In Season 5, Jeff is in his most mature self. In Repilot, it's seen that Jeff fails to be a lawyer because he tried to be a good one rather than the remorseless lawyer he used to be. Even though he tries to trick the study group into suing Greendale to earn some money, just like his past self would do, his conscience stops him. He rather takes a job as a law professor at Greendale and forms Saving Greendale Committee with the study group in order to improve the school. Him trying to be a good lawyer after he graduates is actually an indication of how much he has progressed, because when he first came to Greendale, his only aim was to get a college degree to pursue being a deceitful lawyer just like he was, but rather than doing so, he changes the way he does his job. He doesn't even care that much about his image and popularity anymore. In app development and condiments, Greendale is introduced to Meow Meow Beans, which is an app that ranks users from 1 to 5. Shirley gets caught up in becoming a 5 so quickly, and this makes Jeff nervous. That's why he fakes being nice to everyone to get his rank up to 5 in order to get back at Shirley. In the past, Jeff would try to be the best and would feel threatened whenever someone better came up, just like it happened with Rich.
I don't know how, and I don't know when, but one day that guy is going to slip up, and when that happens, I'm going to be there to expose him.
However, in this case, he tries to prevent this dystopian class distinction that is formed by the rankings of the app, and it is the only reason for him to try to rise to a 5. Besides his character development, he still makes bad choices in his romantic life. In Basic Story, he asks Britta to marry him after learning that Greendale is going to be sold to Subway. However, in the next episode, Basic Sandwich, the closer he gets to saving Greendale again, the more these two are drawn away. Annie, after learning Jeff and Britta are getting married, decides that it's time to let him go. However, Jeff realizes that he doesn't have the passion he feels for Annie towards anyone else, not even Britta. Just like he did in the previous seasons, he uses his friends with benefits type of relationship with Britta in order to escape from his real feelings, which are in this case for Annie, and from the bitter truth that he is stuck at a life he is not happy with at the age of 40. Even though he may act mature in most chaotic situations, he still has an intense fear towards accepting the sad reality he is in, and that creates his tendency to make wrong decisions for himself.
I'm not dreaming about settling down.
Well, maybe you already have. You're teaching, you love Greendale.
No, I love Scotch and myself. I tolerate Greendale.
In Season 6, Jeff has actually reached a very stable state in his life. He continues teaching at Greendale and has an active part in Save Greendale Committee. There are still traces of his old sneaky lawyer self, but he leaves that state of mind very easily. In Basic Crisis Room Decorum, the rival school City College releases an attack claiming that Greendale has given a degree to a dog. Jeff, as a lawyer, tries to find defeating arguments by cheating. However, this makes Annie upset as she actually wants to find out whether this allegation is true or not, which is actually found out to be true. After Annie leaves the room out of anger, Jeff decides to make a commercial that shows Greendale acknowledging this situation and trying to improve itself. As it can be seen, he tries to revert back to his old self for a second, but his conscience makes him do the right thing.
I promise I'll never mistake you for having a heart.
Meanwhile, even though he reaches some kind of stability in his life, it's not very clear how happy he is. In Emotional Consequences of Broadcast Television, everybody in the study group pitches their ideas for season 7. Jeff finds this idea stupid as he doesn't like the idea of their life being pitched as a TV show. However, as he learns that Abed and Annie are leaving Greendale, he actually gets invested in pitching ideas that involve these two coming back. He even leaves the bar as he cannot bear the idea of Abed and Annie leaving and goes to the study room to have a look at the table. He pictures himself being married to Annie, whom he realized he loved at the end of season 5, but never made any move as he decided to bury his feelings inside. While picturing, he realizes that he has no idea what Annie wants from life and from a relationship. Jeff is actually ready to settle down, which he kind of did even though not in the way he expected, but Annie isn't because she has more life to experience.
I want stories and wisdom, perspective. You're older. Let the kid stuff go.
I let you go, Annie. The heart wants what it wants, but I let you go.
The problem here is that he's unhappy with the life he settled, but it's very hard for him to risk his current life and job and try to experience what's out there. He even tried being a lawyer again and he failed. That's why he gets emotional when he is giving Annie and Abed a ride to the airport as he sees two relatively young people heading out into the world, knowing what they want to experience. At the same time, he tries to acknowledge the fact that he's at a stage in his life where he is actually settling down.
I love that I got to be with you guys. You saved my life and changed it forever. Thank you.
Jeff Finger is a complex character. He starts out as an evil lawyer who was dismissed from his profession until he gets a real diploma. He tries to cheat his way through school and fails. He only wants to sleep with Britta and he doesn't care about the rest of the group. He becomes more mature, starts caring about each and every one of his friends, but he always has a part of himself that reverts back to his old self or prevents him from moving forward. He may have character development in certain aspects of his life, but he never actually leaves his past life behind. That is what makes him a complex character. Thank you all for watching. Don't forget to like my video and subscribe to my channel. I would love to hear your ideas on the topics of the videos I might upload. See you in my next videos. Have a great day!